Hello and welcome to this episode of the Tales from Beyond the Grade podcast. I'm Jedi Teacher Man, and today I'm delighted to welcome Taai Matthews from the Black Equality Coalition. Taai, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I'm a parent, first and foremost, a native of Seattle, Washington, and I joined Black Equality Coalition about 2 years ago, or 2.5 years ago, rather. And we decided that we wanted to form a mentorship program. So I am the coordinator for the mentoring program through Black Equality Coalition.
Fabulous. And just to give our listeners a bit of an insight, what does that look like when you visit the school? What kind of things do we see?
Well, we come once a week, every Wednesday from about 12:40 to 1:35. This is a voluntary program, just to let you know. We host anywhere between 17 and 25 students per week. And every week we strive to bring something new and creative, like not warmed over hash browns or anything, but something to complement their education as well as add to it. So to let you know, we had our first career spotlight day today, and we had a presenter, Pat Matthews, who was a civil engineer in Chicago. So the presentation was virtual.
Very cool. Nice.
The reasoning for having Pat Matthews bring to the table what could be considered a boring field is he allowed the students to visualize the various aspects of civil engineering. He's a project manager, but you need artists, you need scientists, you need designers. It takes all of these disciplines to get his particular jobs done. So I thought that would be of interest to the students.
Brilliant. Excellent. So we've chatted a little bit. We've known each other for, I'm going to say, probably about 18 months now, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So, and we talked about doing this podcast for quite a while. So I know we talked a lot about like community involvement, which is what the BEC is, as far as our school goes. And looking at that connection that parents can have, and that's the purpose of this podcast, is to support parents in helping support their children. And one of the topics we looked at is the perception that kids have at school, and how do you see, when you're working with kids, how do you see their perceptions, how they may be influenced by parents, and what parent influences have on kids' perceptions of school?
Well, as a parent, I from firsthand knowledge know that we are their role models and their first teachers. So we can impact negatively or positively their experience in school. We can do that by our enthusiasm, our indifference, or our criticism of schools or educators or how someone's teaching or the materials. So I think the first thing to do is, you're going to hear me say this a lot, is to form alliances and partnerships with educators. We're not enemies. Even if you're doing something I don't particularly appreciate, I can't let it be perceived as if you're my enemy. Otherwise, students pick up on that and they seem to take on the same mannerisms and train of thought as the negativity.
That makes perfect sense. And I think as an educator, I can say I may have seen that at time, that you can see that the engagement from a parent, and we've got to be realistic. I can say that my experience at school back in the day, and it were the dark days as they appeared, not the dark ages, but the dark days. And I thought they were. Elementary school was great. Secondary school, middle school, secondary school. I didn't have a great experience, and I can imagine that if I hadn't gone into education as a career and got this second bite of a cherry to reinvent my perception of it, that if I had, my children, I would be presenting a very negative aspect of school, as in, yeah, I understand because I wasn't very good at it, so why should you be very good? And that's not fair, right? Because that's like saying, I'm not very good at knitting. But my mum was amazing at knitting. Oh, yeah. So that's the reverse. Why am I not good at knitting if she was great at knitting? The reason was I was never interested in it. Or it didn't spark my interest, right? So, so that's great. Thank you. So based on that then, what can we do in education? Educators, teachers, what can we do to encourage families to support their kids in breaking the cycles that have traditionally prevented maybe their children or people in their family going to college? And that's a big thing. I was the first college attender in my family. I did it after the event, I actually took on jobs, left school, pretty much unqualified. I was having to do unqualified work. And for me, it was just a case of I am so uncomfortable now, I need to make a change in my life. And that's what led to that being. And I just had one or two people around me at the time. Yeah, I was dating someone. She took a couple of years out, but she had the blueprint.
Okay.
Her family, that's what they did, that she knew the way to go. And she turned up one day with this leaflet from college and said, hey, there's this course you can go on. You do it for a year and it's as good as getting your high school diploma. Boom, it's your second bite of the cherry. When I'm teaching kids, I want them to take the first bite because I don't want them to experience that uncomfort, the level of discomfort that I had. So what do you think we can do to really encourage families to take that first bite of the cherry and break the cycle?
Well, I think you just gave some very helpful insight. The word blueprint. If I don't have the blueprint, how can I assist?
Right.
So take your knowledge with the parent's experience with their child, and let's combine those experiences. Let's have more platforms and forums in which I or another parent can voice their concerns, their opinions, and let's come to some kind of meeting of the minds. I would encourage parents to be an active participant in what their student is interested in and what their challenges are, and have regular meetings with the educator to figure out how to navigate them.
Right.
I mean, I was never that good at math, right? So
I know a great math teacher. My kids know a great math. Carry on. I won't interrupt you again.
No, in high school, I was very intimidated by my math teacher. I had a horrible experience.
They are, though.
In math. It was the worst.
High school, they are, aren't they? I see high school. They intimidate me now when I'm in the same profession. No, I get it. Right.
So maybe that's not my route. So my dad was in computer science. I always had this thing where I wanted to do computer science. I went to college and felt miserably because I'm pursuing a path that was created by someone else for someone else, not me. So it's very helpful for a parent and an educator to understand the child's innate talents. And maybe there's a bit of quote unquote weakness, but maybe that can be enhanced as well to propel them forward. So again, as a joint effort, everything is a joint effort. So let's utilize the PTA. Let's utilize Black Equality Coalition and assist the students as much as we can. Will it be 100% effective? Nothing is. But I think that's a great start.
Right. No, and you've got to go for the percentage game, right? You've got to start with something. What's going to really take care of that? What we call in education terms, tier 1.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Let's hit 90%.
Please.
Then we can fill the gaps.
Yes.
We'll build those gaps after that. Yeah. That's really, really fascinating. Yeah. So the word blueprint is just something I use, but it's interesting now that you grasp that, and really that is what kids need. They need their own blueprint.
Yes.
And
we need to help them shape that and expose them to other people and experiences that help craft their blueprint.
Right.
So
and
that's what we're doing.
See they can see themselves in that position.
That's the point of the mentorship program, in a nutshell.
Yeah, so that's fascinating. That's fascinating that crosses over, because I'm always interested, okay, what did my upbringing and how me starting teaching in England, how's it translated over here? And it's really, for me, it's been seamless. And it's interesting that kids in Liverpool say, in our house, ARE is exactly the same grammatical errors you see in US, 6,000 miles away. In our house, ARE, in our house, not our house, right? In our house. So so far more similarities than there are differences, but without a doubt. And one of the big similarities I find, and this is something else, I'm always reaching out to parents, and we do it as a school, we communicate, but the summer slide. So we break up, we finish for summer, and we come back in September and we see this slide in reading, in math scores. And it's okay saying, well, math scores aren't everything and grades aren't everything, but we need indicators and we do need data to say where kids are at. And it shows, it's like kids were performing at a certain level in May and June.
Yes.
And then beginning of September, they're going back months, like a quarter of a year, half a year in some cases.
Okay.
What are some suggestions to help alleviate that, eradicate the summer slide?
Well, you brought it to my attention, the term summer slide. Didn't know it existed, but I can see how it exists, because what are we doing as parents, and what are educators doing to help prepare students throughout the summer? And then how do parents pick up the ball, right? First and foremost, I'm not a perfect parent. Let's just throw that out there, right? But what I did even through the school year is I always had supplemental studies for my children, because for whatever reason, I don't know where this came from, I understood that a school can't be the only source of education. I also wanted some input, and I looked at the curriculum and I saw holes. I looked at my children and I saw that they're a little bit above what they're teaching them in some of the levels, right?
Right.
So something simple as they had to read a half an hour a day. Even if they had company, they had to stop and read for half an hour. Did they like it all the time? No. Or if they watched a random movie, I had them do book reports. Every time? No, but a lot of times. Or movie reports, if you will. Right. They had placemats with geography, with history, with math, with all kind of stuff. So they were stimulated, maybe sometimes overstimulated with education, but things sink in. And my daughter especially still remembers that. And that's the part that I love. So let's try that, right?
Yeah.
And make it fun and interesting. That means as a parent, I got to be engaged. That means as an educator, maybe if they don't already do this, I'm thinking all educators don't. You're an anomaly, possibly.
Don't know. Try me, test me. Let's see what's going on here. Go on.
Tie in with the parent, possibly through text or email, if it's set up before school gets out, to kind of check in. Because I think educators also, if they want to, if they can, I know you guys need downtime, but you have the opportunity to also be a mentor. So let's see if any of that works to address summer slippage. It could be easy, or we can make it hard, right? But just some
summer
simple...
slippage sounds so much better than summer slide. Because summer slide sounds fun. Summer slippage sounds horrible. It's like, we don't want summer slippage.
Yes.
And it was like, you would avoid that. You know, oh my word, we should put that out there. Summer slippage.
Well, let's do a test this summer, right, and see if it works.
Right. By using summer slippage.
Yes. Let's use it using some really simple tools.
Right. Parents
tie in. Maybe have a mandatory meeting before school ends and have them sign off on a packet. Your child needs to get through this. And then can you please do some additional things with your child, and maybe check in at the end of the week to make sure they've done it. That 30-minute reading a day really, really helps. Right. It keeps their brain sharp, right, and it helps with their spelling, and it helps with their, what do you call it?
Vocabulary acquisition. Yeah. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Language acquisition. Absolutely it does.
And I have to say, reading a book is how you travel. I was a poor child, a poor family, right? Right. It's awesome. Right.
And libraries are free.
Take field trips to the library.
Libraries are free, folks.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to give a shout out to our principal, because she really does press family communication, and she is our family liaison, who now is
Emiliano.
Oh, right.
Yes.
I know. He's great. Sad news, he actually just left the school to work for the district. So, but he's still in contact, and great guy. Going back to our principal and our family liaison was all about phoning home, more positive praise, phone home with a positive praise, phone home with really keeping that parent contact, going. Right, get it going from the start of the year.
Yes.
Keep it going. And actually, I'll do a bit of a self shout out here. So a couple of weeks ago, it was the end of semester, and we finished on the Thursday, and the kids had done an assessment on the Wednesday. So I graded the papers Thursday, got home Thursday night, graded the paper, and I was a bit disappointed. It was like I knew the kids knew more than the data I had in front of me. And I rang around parents, doing exactly what you said. I rang around, and it was like 8:30 at night. I said, I'm sorry it's late. No problem, Mr. Jenkins. It's what can I do for you? And I put up I already have these cool things called comprehension checks. Okay. I said, I posted a comprehension check, which is basically equivalent of the lesson quiz, but it's a digital version. If he could do that at home in the next hour, or before tomorrow gets out, so that because the grades are going to go out Sunday night, I can, and I call it upgrading. I said, you can upgrade. And it
I
means
love
you can
that.
up your grade, right? And I know, again, it's not about grades, but sometimes it just is. It's about...
And it's not about having them fail either.
Show me what you know.
Yes.
Show me you know it.
Yes.
Show me you know. Show me that you didn't just kind of lark around with your friend or whatever. Show me you know it. And this parent called back. I had 3 parents. And one of them texted me saying, he's on it right now. Can you let me know when he's done it?
I love it. And
the other parent called me back and was like, he's done it. And he's now doing another iReady lesson because we saw there was another one there. That kid just got richer.
Yes,
because of that phone call.
Thank you.
They might not have liked it.
That's not the point.
So we're going to get into that in a moment. Right? We're going to get into the bit about hard work. Oh, this could be hard work, or I don't like this. And it's like, welcome to the world.
Welcome to the real world.
But I kind of couldn't go to sleep for a while because I was like, my God, that was just the coolest thing. That I didn't know how cool it was until you'd done it, right?
Yes.
It's like sometimes you tell a joke, and I don't know if it happens to you, I do. I tell a joke, and it's not till I've said it out loud, and you hear it come back around, and I end up laughing louder than it, because I didn't realise how funny it was till you heard, until it came out. So anyway, and there's more to my math classes than telling jokes, but I know they're quite...
That helps.
No, but... Well, unless you're a kid who doesn't like jokes, and there's 1 or 2. No, they're okay. Right, let's talk about the, but that's hard work. Oh, but that's really difficult. And we were just talking about kids who go for the low-hanging fruit. And some kids won't even go for the low-hanging fruit. It's like, why should I go for the low-hanging fruit? Because you're going to give it me in the end anyway. It's like in the instructional piece, right? Okay, this is the problem I have a lot of the time. Okay, guys, here's a problem on the board. I really want you to talk with your partner now about what's going on there. So be really thinking about this. Come on, use your brains. And there's just this, sometimes it feels like apathy in the room of, well, you're going to tell us in the end anyway. And they can wait. This. It's like a staring contest. They can just stare you down until you wait. I don't mean I stare at them as a cop, but it's like they do have the patience to just go like, well, you're going to tell us. And it's like, but that's not the objective. The objective is I know. And it's like this hard work and this. So do you understand where I'm coming from?
Yes.
Yeah. Thoughts.
I was going to say, make it another test. And next time, don't tell them. Leave it, let it be a cliffhanger. Try that.
Yeah, but then there's nothing after the cliffhanger. It's not like, oh, right, now we have to wait till next week. And they're all going like, oh, we can't wait. It's like, great, can we go to recess, or can we get out? Can we go on?
You know what I thought about? Even
play games.
The mentor sessions is, in one of the sessions, I'm going to have one of the students be the lead, the instructor, if you will. I want to see if they pay that student attention. I want to see if they're more engaging with that student who expressed an interest. I won't say the student's name, but in a particular topic. And he's been helping out the other students in a couple sessions. I want to give him the opportunity to be more of a leader. And I want to see how that works in the classroom setting. So I'm wondering if that would be a good way to spark more interest and dialogue in your class.
Right. Where I'm going with this is I'm thinking parents, right? I'm thinking, so I'll find a way, right?
I know you will.
I've got resources. We'll find a way and all that. But I'm thinking parents who don't have they've not gone to teach, it's, what I'm saying? So when you get that, like I say, it looks like apathy. And I'm sure in some cases it is, but that apathetic approach to like, well, okay, I mean, if you're only doing the work, and I have this thing about work and job, it's like learning is not a job, right? A job is something you get paid for, and we're not paying you. You actually get given education. It's a gift. It's education is a gift to enrich you with the skills, and the tools to go out in the world. We're the only profession I know of that wants kids to be richer than we are. There's no other profession I know of that builds someone up to say, my dentist doesn't want me to be wealthier than him. He wants me to have decent teeth and then go and tell other people how good my teeth are so they can go to him and make more money, right? That's what they want. But we're the only profession I know where I want kids to come back in 10 years' time or 30 years' time and say, I made my first million, Mr. Jenkins. and I'm still a teacher, so they know I haven't made $1 million. Right? Do you know what I'm saying? It's like, but this is the gift of education that we're giving you. It isn't a job, and I do hear, what's your job at school? You haven't got a job at school. You've got a privilege at school. You've got an opportunity at school. It isn't a job at school.
The words you're using, that's respect. And that's no disrespect to anyone who doesn't use other language or other terms. But especially at this age, those words aren't utilized, as far as I know, in a household with regards to education, that it's a gift.
Right.
Because that's how I felt in school. But keep in mind, I also used school as an escape. I excelled in elementary school. I excelled in high school because that was the one place where I felt comfortable. That was the one place that I felt safe.
So it was a gift in a different way. It was
in a different way. Yes, it was.
Right.
And so was reading.
Right.
So those are things that help shape me and help me have a healthy respect for educators. And my mom taught me to read very, very early. That was a gift. And I knew that was a gift. And so in response, I taught my children how to read before they went to school. Right. I considered that my gift to them. So I hear them say the same things. I want to do the same thing for my children that my mom did for me, namely reading. So if we could help, even in our communications to parents, even if we put that in a newsletter, if we express it to the PTA, in the language that you use when you talk to the parents on the phone, to possibly help reshape and retool their thinking and possibly their verbiage or the way they speak to their children, maybe that'll make a difference. I think we just don't think about it. That's not a normal way to speak about something that we think we have to do.
Right. And there's two sides, right? Like, I think I can share this. I'm not mentioning any names, but after 20 years where okay, dude, why do you come to school? Because my mum makes me. Because it's the law. Because I have to.
Yes.
Okay, Joey, why do you come to school? Because it gives me the opportunity to become brilliant. Bitch, that's all I ever say to the kid. You're here with the opportunity to become brilliant. That is my job, to help you become brilliant. And hopefully, because I'm doing it so often, that's my goal as well. I want to become brilliant at doing that for you, right? And this messaging, that to me is the simple truth.
How do other cultures, other countries view education at the elementary level?
As a whole, it's hard to speak as a whole group, isn't it?
I know.
Individuals in a
sorry,
group,
because
right?
that could be considered a negative bit.
No, I don't know. I mean, look, we talked before about data, right? The top of the pile is always Asia. And yet it can't be all of Asia.
Oh, it's not all.
It can't be all of Asia, right? But we label it Asia. Mm-hmm. We label students white, black. But we have African American, and then you've got 53 countries, I think, in Africa.
Yes.
Right? Which would all, maybe a big part of South Africa might not identify as black, but most of, even South Africa is black, right? So,
I'm going to come back to you with some answers. I really am. Because I know of a couple educators are actually in various parts of Africa, teaching. So I'm really
I've got a good
interested to know how they perceive education. Right. And I'm assuming, just based on things I've read and heard, that there's a possibility that they view it differently. Maybe they consider it a gift.
When we say differently, you mean positive? When you say differently,
in a more positive light, yes.
Right.
Yes. And I think that's what happens when things come easier. We may not articulate it in that positive way.
So first of all, I have a friend. No, I have a friend called Temwa. And I say friend, she's a Facebook friend, but we're connected professionally by another friend of mine who introduced me online. And I have actually done a Zoom call with her. And I have to say, I'm not sure which country she's in, but she's on Facebook. And so I'll put an insert of her Facebook page while I'm talking now. So this is Temwa. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to show you a picture of the kids that she teaches. I'm going to show you what their classroom looks like, what their classroom looked like which was basically drawing in the dirt and sitting in the dirt, and the whiteboard or the chalkboard was on the wall of an outside wall of an outhouse. And the smiles on these kids' faces and the pride they had when she got funding to buy them uniforms. And she gets up, I think, at 4:30 every morning to go and pick the breakfast out of the fields. So, and I showed my class, I introduced them last week. I said, hey guys, this is, and then you look at the quality of, you look at a piece of writing in English.
Yes.
And you're like, how are we having any problems? Everyone's got problems, right? It's not saying, we're devastated, but we are in a pretty privileged country with resources, with finances, and we can argue till the cows come home that there isn't enough money in education. This woman's doing it with nothing. She's doing it with nothing. And there are kids in her class, I'm sure, who are ADHD, right? Who are ODD, who, I'd be amazed if they aren't, because we talk about poverty in the US.
Yes.
And poverty exists in the US. And then there's poverty that you look at that pretty much every one of her kids would get a free breakfast at our school. Right? I think they get a free breakfast at her school. And they're not even, but she's just pulling funding from all. She isn't getting funding from the government. She's pulling funding as a non-profit.
Okay.
It's just a fascinating thing. So the word that I'm going to skip to now is sense of entitlement, right? Discuss. Do you remember the old essay questions? There we go.
Oh,
entitlement. Lord. Discuss.
Well, in defense of students, they don't really understand entitlement. I think I apologize. That's a difficult one, because they have no sense of entitlement. They just are. They come to you with whatever quote unquote baggage they're bringing, right? And then we teach them about entitlement. And perhaps through teaching what that means, what that looks like, and what fruit, if you will, that brings, maybe we'll get a fraction of students who really understand how valuable what you guys bring to the table is, how valuable your input is, how valuable that blueprint that you're showing them is. And even if their parent or guardian uses the word job, honestly, who cares? Because when you come to this place, I want you to be excited about learning. So how do we make students excited about learning regardless? Right. There's the challenge, I know, right?
You see, I can get excited about learning, I can get excited about education, and I can get excited about the work I do. I never got excited about a job.
I see where you're going with that.
Because this isn't a job, right? This is a career I chose after doing jobs. So as I spoke about earlier on, I'd had the jobs, and it was the discomfort of those jobs. And it wasn't, you see, I think entitlement is the antithesis to grit. So when we talk about grit, the people that have grit, you can get a sense of entitlement, but you've earned it. It's a privileged entitlement because you've already put the work in. And I actually spoke to Angela Duckworth. I'm a big fan of her podcast. What's her called? No Stupid Questions, I think her podcast is called. You should check it out. It's really good. And I actually got to speak to Angela Duckworth once about, she wrote the book Grit. Okay. In fact, I've got a signed copy of it over there. Yeah. You can borrow it. Yeah. And someone asked her a question about, there was this big thing about, grit is a racist term. And she said, you know what, I've heard a lot about this. Could you explain why you see it that way?
Yes.
And she said, because it's like expecting people that have got they've got, life is tougher for people of color and they've got less resources and all these valid things. And therefore, asking them to step up and do things going above and beyond is unreasonable. And I'll never forget this, because Angela Duckworth just turned around and said, no, but the fact they're living that life is already developing grit. that's not who we're talking. We're not
That's
talking.
where the pride comes from.
Right?
Yes.
We're not talking about teaching people that are already working their socks off, because that develops grit anyway. It's the sense of those that I want to do this, but I can't be bothered. When you haven't got the choice to not be bothered, you've got grit, right?
Yes.
Right? When you're a mom with 3 kids who's got to put food on the table and work 2 jobs, and you're doing it, you're demonstrating grit to your kids. You're saying, right, this is what it takes. You're doing what it takes.
Modeling that behavior and hopefully speaking to them at the same time.
Right. And Angela Duckworth's definition of grit, let me get this right, is the passion for achieving long-term goals over a sustained period of time. So if you're a mom bringing up your kids and you bring up your kids, is that not a passion for bringing up your kids over a sustained period of time? And you did it. Definitely. So kids who are looking at parents working hard, you've got the model of grit right there, right? You don't get entitled by it. You build on that and you flourish through that. So
that's where I was struggling with the word entitlement, because again, that's relative and we're not in every home. So I don't know what parents are modeling. I do have a question for you though. Do you believe that the students who go for the high hanging fruit have grit? Or demonstrating that attribute? Okay, got it.
Yeah. And I'll give you the reason why. And many people will say, oh, well, they're talented. They're talented or they're gifted. It was gifted and talented back in the day. Now it's highly capable. And it's like, yeah, they are those things. But no one ever came out of the uterus knowing their ABCs and their multiplication tables. They learned them, right? Now, you may have had support learning them. You may have had someone at home doing it. But you had to sit in the chair and learn them. You had to listen to. You weren't off on the phone doing whatever you wanted to do. You weren't being distracted by everything. You had to do it. I often liken this to a bit of a name drop here. So Jules Holland, who's a very famous, he's got an orchestra in UK and he's got his own BBC show. And Jules Holland, look him up. I actually really had the privilege of meeting him through a friend who was a big fan of his, and we went to see him and met him after the show. And I was just like, dude, how do you, quite literally, he's there in his tuxedo, in proper English, home counties accent. Dude, how do you just get to play the piano like that? It's just like, is it just natural talent? And he said, 20 minutes a day. I went, seriously? He said, you sit in the seat 20 minutes every day, no more, and you will get better, but just do it every day.
You'll get better.
And 20 minutes of anything every day, you will get better doing it.
Go back to reading.
But what's the hardest bit? It's not the 20 minutes in the seat, it's the getting yourself into the seat.
And it's a discipline.
Right? It's a discipline. Getting yourself into I've got to get it. It's not working out in the gym is the problem. It's getting to the gym is the problem, right? And it's that, and I spoke to a very good friend of mine a couple of years ago about this. It's like, if you can get past that 5 to 15 seconds, I have a piano in my living room. So through COVID, I'd already started I had lessons about 20 years ago, got the basics down. And then I came across this thing online through COVID, how to play 500 songs in a week. And I was like, yeah, whatever. Well, I'll give that all your money back. And I thought, well, I can't go wrong with that. And there's my piano, the digital piano in the living room. And lo and behold, I'm playing Let It Be by the Beatles within 10 minutes. Okay. Because not only that, it taught me literally how to do chords, and I could do a real easy podcast on that. So if anyone wants to learn how to play the piano really easily, let me know. And it really is. So when you realize it, you're like, it's 4 and 3. It's 3 notes and 4 notes and 3 notes, and you play those 3 notes together. Done.
Hear that, folks? Your first lesson.
Yeah. And guess what I did? I just sat in the chair. Through COVID was a bit easier because we didn't have we were crying out for 20 minutes, lots of 20-minute things to do, right? But guess what? I was in that seat more than 20 minutes. Once I'd made that 15-second grind, I've got to go and sit in the seat and turn the piano on. That was the problem. It wasn't like a proper piano. I had to switch it on. I think that was the barrier, right? Because a normal piano, you can sit down and play, right? But once I'd switched it on, and then it took about 10 seconds to kind of warm up and start, before you can play it. So 25 seconds to get over the room, switch it on, sit down, open the music, and then decide which song you want to play. And the thing with music is, once you start making music, you want to make more music.
Oh.
But it's the same with times tables. When you know that 2, 4, 6, 8, 3, 6, 9, 12, once you get those patterns and it starts like, that's why we used to do into songs, right? Why don't we do that still?
See how I'm so inspired?
Right.
Is it because I'm an adult? But I found that very inspiring. I'm like, just give your students that demonstration you just gave me, and then draw the parallel to the other things.
Well, I can do it in the classroom, but it's parents, just get your kids in the seat and get yourself in the seat. And sometimes I get it, right? I know that being a parent is the toughest thing in the world.
And I've worked all day, and I've done, yes.
Yeah. But teaching is a really tough job as well. But we do it.
Joint effort. Right?
We do it. And if we both work harder together, it might work a bit easier.
I do want to say that as an African-American female, I understand barriers. I understand trauma. I understand biases. So,
well, can I just ask you that?
Yes,
I just wanted to ask you, and we're going to wrap up soon, but we cannot, we have to go full circle, or at least close the circle on this conversation, because I'm sure we'll be having more. And that is, there is racial bias, and there is bias affecting education. And we know the prison to pipeline, the school to prison pipeline is a factual thing in US history, and very likely still today. I feel the district I'm working in is working really hard, and has worked really hard since I've been here for 7 years to turn that more into a school to college and career readiness highway, I think we call it. I like that. Because that's where we want them to go. We want kids to be career ready, or ready to go to college, and give them that choice of opportunity. So what do you feel are you still seeing, or how far do you think we've come in moving from that school to prison pipeline more to getting us on that highway to being college and career ready?
The fact that there's a term shows that we're actually looking at it. I was not even aware of that term before a couple of years ago. It never dawned on me to think about that.
Which term?
School to prison pipeline.
Oh, right.
Even as white people, I'm just going to say, when I told them that my children went to private school, looked at me like, what? Your children are in private school? Or my son went to college? Or your son went to college? I'm like, as opposed to what? Be in prison? I mean, that was never an option. Not like I control everything, but like, we're not an anomaly. There are people of color that excel. And it's just not about going to college. They could be in a trade. I consider that excelling. Right. They could be entrepreneurs. That is excelling.
Fun fact, did you know 8% of millionaires in the US are African American?
That is a very fun fact.
Google it.
I love it.
Yeah.
I
mean, it'd be a funner fact. Funner is definitely a word, folks. Mark my words. When you're a teacher, you'd be amazed what words we make up. There is a funner fact that 20% of African Americans being millionaires would be a much better data point. But I thought 8%, I was like, oh.
And see, that's a funner fact for me, but it needs to be a reality for people who just have a perception that because of my skin color, and then furthermore, because I'm a female, I may not excel, or I'm not articulate, or all these things, all these biases that are put on us because of whatever your foundation is, whatever your belief system is, right? I don't subscribe to any of those. So that is why I speak the way I speak, even though I understand that we operate in a society that to a large extent looks down on us. Okay.
Yeah.
So
absolutely
just
it does, right.
Real talk.
Right.
But I like to bring positive solutions to this with that reality going on and playing that recorder in the back of my mind.
Right.
We have to learn how to operate within the system because we're here. So how do you educate and prepare students of color to operate in an environment and a society that wasn't really designed for them to succeed?
Right.
Topic for another session, right?
Yep, absolutely.
But that's the reason why I'm here.
Right.
I want to help figure it out one child at a time. That's my goal.
Can we do one classroom at a time? Because that could exponentially grow
one classroom
quicker.
at a time.
Let's go
Yes,
classroom
that's one
at a time.
classroom
One
at a
child's a
time.
bit loud.
Challenge taken.
Let's go a little bit higher. All right.
Okay.
Right. Taai, thank you so much. This has been great.
Thank you for having
Absolutely
me.
great. I think we've had some fun, but I think we've also got some pretty, got down to the nitty gritty of some pretty tough conversations there. So
I appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, that's all for this episode of the Tales from Beyond the Grade podcast. If you've got any comments, please leave them below. And also, please like and subscribe. And we'll see you next time.